Hi, 10th grade design. This is Ms. Stapp here with your second video over lesson 12. And remember, at this point, you are creating the solution, but this is all about documentation of the process. That's what we want to see here. Since I can't be right there watching you create your product and understand exactly how you did it, you have to document and prove and show evidence of the creation process as well as your product. So we already went over step 1 and 2, and those were a continuation of last week. Now we're on step 3, and you should be able to see step 3 on your screen. You're going to create a table. You know I love tables. To fully justify changes made to the chosen design and plan when making the solution. So remember your design and plan that includes that original plan and your procedural list. Those are your blueprints for creating your podcast. Now you went in with some notes as you were creating. You made some notes about maybe additional information you needed, additional skills you needed, any little modifications or changes that you are making. And at this point, we're going to actually formalize those notes into something useful, and we have a couple ways to do that. So one way you can do that is just add to your Gantt chart. Now, if your Gantt chart, you used a Google document and it's getting overwhelming because it's making it really narrow, you can use some of that software I suggested, or you can just take this and put it onto an Excel spreadsheet. You can change the width of your Google so that it is landscape, something that you can spread it out a little bit so it is useful to you. Remember, I'm looking and making sure that you're following all these steps, but these plans and these changes really should be most useful for you with the idea that you are going to continue to make podcasts, and maybe you are. So you can see that I've taken my original Gantt chart, and remember, mine doesn't have any information in it, so it's kind of narrow here. This is just an example for you to use. And I've just added a couple columns in order to help me with those things that I want to see. And one of those columns says change, description, and justification. So what that means is I'm going to write a little short kind of description word or two, and then the justification below that. And I'll show you an example in a second. But there is another column, you'll notice, revised procedural task. So after I have made notes on that change and the justification of the change, I will go in and I will rewrite or add to my original procedural task. Okay? At some point, you may want to take away the first column and the second, just have your revised procedural task. But right now, it's important for you to show the process. And anybody you're working with, they need to see the process too in order to fully understand your evolution from beginning to where you are now, and to, again, recreate that if necessary or aid you if necessary through the production of your podcast. Okay, so below that, I say, if you do not use a Gantt chart or are creating a new table, look at exemplar 2. Let's look down at exemplar 2. Oh, here I've created a brand new table because I didn't like how big my Gantt chart was getting. I just wanted something fresh that was easy for me to look through and add to. So it looks similar to my Gantt chart. I have my original procedural list task over here. I want you to understand you need to put each task. If you're creating a new chart, you have to copy and paste each task into this new table. Okay? Because if you are not making changes, you will know that too. So you can see in task 1, I had begin creating my logo art by using GIMP, and then I walk you through how I have done that and how I want to see it set up. And then I've decided that was just perfect, and anybody would be able to follow that steps, and that is exactly what I did step by step. So next to that, I have no change to my change description and justification. My revised procedural task, I'll note the same thing. No change. This was perfect. Had enough details to please Miss Stapp. Okay, let's look. Now my second one, obviously can see I didn't write no change. So there's going to be some modification or additions or changes right there. And originally my task said spliced sound bites will include clapping and umpire whistle blows. As I got down to it and I started to do this test, I immediately understood that I would need to let somebody else know exactly how to do that and where to find out. If they were to go from beginning of this procedural list till end, they would need those details. It would be very important. So I wrote my little description, add specific location of these sound bites online to my materials for step 2, as well as where to drop them into my podcast recording. So those are the things that I need. That's kind of an overview of what I'm going to put, and then I have my justification next. This will allow me to work easily through the production task without having to search for the sound bites and place where the sound bites exactly, I have a typo there, exactly need to be placed in my podcast. So over on the right-hand side, this was the revised procedural task from beginning to end. Locate umpire whistleblow soundbite in materials for step 2, upload soundbites to Audacity, and drop into recording at 1.43 minutes. So that tells you exactly how to do it. The next, locate audience clapping soundbite in materials for step 2. So you notice that something else I mentioned is that I'm going to add that to my materials list. You might have to do that as you go along. So somebody should just be able to go to my materials list, find out the location of that soundbite, drop it into Audacity right here at 2.41 minutes and replicate my podcast exactly. So let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. I've gone over the Gantt chart. If you did not use the Gantt chart, you will create some other kind of table to demonstrate to me that you have this changed description and justification, and that you've created a revised procedural task. I've allotted 1 hour and 45 minutes to this. Just as we have done in the past few weeks, please make sure you use 1 hour and 45 minutes. If you only get partway through this new table, that is fine. But I have a basic understanding of how much you should be able to get done in 1 hour and 45 minutes. And if I see that you've done some high quality revisions of a few steps, that is perfect. If I have just a little bit like last time, or it's a very narrow description, not enough detail for me to create that podcast, then I might ask you to spend some extra time to go back in and make sure that you understand how this should look. Okay, let's make sure I went through everything. Remember, if you don't need to modify the original task, and most of you probably will because you'll need more details still here, and that's a modification or a change. Okay, let's see what else.
I think I'm good.
Good. I think that's all. Remember, I don't expect you to finish your podcast this week either. We're going to continue to work on development 1 more week next week. So you will be continuing these steps next week as well. There might be 1 additional task. Okay, let's see. Your changes to the original procedural list table will provide evidence of these changes for criterion C3, strand 3. You're going to upload this new table. So before I asked you just to provide evidence of your continuing work and add it to your procedural list. Now I also want you to upload this new table or your revised Gantt chart. Okay, and I've included a note at the bottom. Your digital process journal and the evidence of your changes to the procedural list must be uploaded, those 2 things. Procedural list changes, digital process journal that has been updated. Must be uploaded by Sunday, May 3rd at 11:55. So that's all for the last step. Please let me know if you have any questions. I would love to walk you through this. We can Zoom if you have questions just about your product and how it's going, or you want to just let me know. I would love to have a sample. I would love to give you some feedback on it. Okay, we're out. Bye, guys.